Welcome to Order 42. I am Rob. That is Jim. And we're just going to hang out with you guys today. What's going on?
Yes.
Hi.
I mean, hi, sir. Hi. Saul Rosenberg, special guest star.
So
I believe I ordered 2. I've received 1.
how have you been? I haven't talked to you in a couple of weeks. I know you've been busy with work.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, I do tech support for a software development company, and this is our busy season to begin with, on top of getting more clients than we've had in the past because of COVID and everything. So without divulging things I can't divulge because of NDAs and stuff, we have been far more busy than usual. So it's been pretty constant, whereas I was used to an operational tempo that was, for lack of a better word, much more manageable for me personally. But it's been good. My schedule changed to where I'm working days. I don't work weekends anymore. Thank fuck. It's so good not to have to worry about that. Aside from that, I mean, life in general has been very, very good, for the most part. You know, you roll with the punches when they come, and you put in the jabs when you can, and wear a Carker shirt and a Pucha Pal hat, and life goes on. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Good.
Yes. Yes.
The Eagle has landed, and Vicky too.
Oh, hi.
Hey, guys.
Why am I waving to the other camera? This is this camera. I'm so used to when I talk to you. This is camera over here.
But
I should have done a 2-camera shot, but I won't.
Oh, it's... Hey.
I'm trying to give you production value, Rob. Okay, come on.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And by the way, thank you for the resub and the host.
Of course. Of course.
Again, you've been one of my biggest supporters, and I really appreciate that. I mean, it's just...
I understand. I gotta lose more weight.
Now, okay, before we really get into stuff,
okay,
I want to just very quickly just talk about, I know that some people don't care about vaping, but vaping is
I don't know those people.
Yeah, vaping is important to the two of us. We both quit smoking using vaping. In fact, I think Redneck Chris too, right? I mean, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, we both know a bunch of people that have quit smoking with vaping, and
yes,
right now going on, like seriously right now at the Ellipse in Washington D.C., right behind the White House, they're doing a Save the Vape rally, and it's because the government is basically trying to take vapes away. They're trying to. There's bans going on at the state level. There's the FDA is trying to regulate vaping into the ground. It's so expensive for companies to get products through the process that they're basically trying to hand vaping over to big tobacco, and we don't want that. So
no.
Yeah, so if you're at all interested, on Twitter, there's the hashtag Save the Vape. That's the hashtag they're using today. I just want to throw that out there. And again, the Royal College of Physicians in England says that vaping is at least 95% safer, and that in the U.S. every year 480,000 people die from smoking-related illnesses. So
right,
we should not regulate the product into the ground that is 95% safer, and you know what I mean?
Even if you're on the other side of the argument, you could simply just say 95% less dangerous. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I think anyone who vapes knows that putting anything into your body that is foreign, that you don't need, which includes a lot of food additives and stuff as well. I mean, there's a ton of stuff out there, not just this. There is a potential harm. And in some ways, because you're inhaling something, some people are going to be more predisposed to, breathing complications anyway for anything if you're taking in. And I don't think anyone who vapes would argue that at all. That's not the point here. The point is this is an alternative to something that nicotine addicts, let's be fair, because it is addictive. There's no denying that. There are certainly health benefits to using nicotine, but it is at its core a very addictive substance. This isn't about banning nicotine. That would be a very different conversation, and something that, frankly, I would be less fearful of, in the sense that if you look at all nicotine products as a whole, it's an addictive thing, not necessarily good in general for society, arguably. That's not what this is about. They're saying this is the way we've done nicotine for a couple hundred years. This has come along. It's threatening some very fat cats' livelihood in a way that they don't like. So they're using their strong arm influence in Washington to try and get this off the market. Much in the same way that meat alternatives they've tried to stifle it for years, and now it's out. You can't really stop it now. It's only getting better. And same thing with environmentalism. Like, I don't want to make it like this huge thing, but potentially in terms of the way that Americans, because this is an American issue right now for sure, the way that Americans choose to live their lives. And we talk a lot about freedom in this country. We talk a lot about whether it's gun rights or freedom of speech and a lot of these hot buttons. It's my body. It's my choice of what I want to put into it. Whether you agree with that or not is completely okay. I'm not saying anyone has to vape, should have to be around vaping or anything. But if I choose to do this because I feel is less dangerous and it helps me with hunger pangs and stress and anxiety, that's my choice. This is not an illegal substance that's under the radar. This isn't people putting like heroin or some other nonsense into a thing. Ooh, like, that's not what this is about. So because it is a legal substance and it's something that is proven with more than one study to be less harmful to you than the current status quo, in my opinion, it's a form of progress that is being stifled unnecessarily. So I fully support the march out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's the weird thing about the whole thing. I mean, we could probably do 2-3 hours on that, but I don't want to.
Yes,
I'm just saying it's just one of those things that I believe in. You believe in. It's harm reduction, like a seatbelt, like a bicycle helmet. It's seriously harm reduction, at least 95% safer. That's
if you look at it strictly from the standpoint of an existing nicotine addict has a choice, and you can lessen the impact on your health while still maintaining the benefits that the drug does bring despite its addictive qualities. And if you're really that worried about the addictive aspect of it, then this should be about all nicotine. It is not, and it's nonsense, frankly.
There you go.
If you truly support freedom, and I know a lot of you people watching, because this is Texas, let's face it, you're big on your freedom here in the Texas. Show up. Like I have, like vegans. They don't do meat products. They don't do animal products of any kind, and they certainly want to see it. They would love to see it go away, but they know that's not realistic. So they always push for, when they can't get things abolished, you want to go for things that are safer, more humane, and so forth. So you've seen this big rise in cruelty-free and more organic, supporting local. And although it's not perfect from a vegan standpoint, which I am not, I'm a vegetarian, there's been progress in that way. And a lot of the big meat producers are like, whoa, it's the same thing. That's an actual quote. Whoa. You look it up. It's on the internet. I don't know how you spell it though. I don't know. I have no idea. But it's the same stuff. And this is just another instance of large corporations influencing government in an undue way to stop people from having real choice in favor of creating choices that benefit them, not you.
There you go. And that's it. That's Like I said, I just wanted to just bring that up and throw it out there. If anybody is interested, they can go out there, hashtag save the vape.
They can hash the tags and save the vape. There you go.
Let's do it.
Now geek stuff.
Now geek stuff.
Now geek stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah. So here's the first thing on my list. I'm kind of curious from your standpoint.
Uh-oh.
Are you into the whole Batman thing? Have you seen the new trailer? I
have. Mainly because it was something that the internet wouldn't shut up about. I'm definitely a Batman fan, probably more so than I ever want to admit. I was really huge into the comics when Neil Adams was the art. To me, the Neil Adams Batman look is kind of where my head's at. And with the writer on that run, I forget his name because I'm horrible, but the emphasis was on him being the world's greatest detective, on him being the smartest guy, who also happens to be one of the most fit ninjas in the world, right? And the tone of the Batman as a franchise, as a character, has shifted away from that for the last 30 years to being more of this dark, brooding. And this trailer that has come out for The Batman, which, first of all, great title. I'm glad someone's doing it that way, because it's taking an even more serious tone. They're taking like Nolan's stuff and saying, okay, it's still going to be quasi-realistic, but it's going to be darker. And I'm like, that's a challenge accepted. Let's see that happen. And I'll be damned if it isn't already. Like, the thing is, I wasn't originally on board with the casting of Robert Pattinson for many of the reasons that other people were against.
Twinkly vampires?
That wasn't where I was going with it, but although that's in there. Look at the last Batman, freaking
Bale?
Kevin
Affleck.
Smith's boy. Affleck. Yeah. A lot of people, Ben Affleck, they didn't, because the whole thing is, and I agree with this argument for any casting choice. I was even this way about Aquaman, for example. I like Marvel's thing of casting relative unknowns in these roles, or people who haven't been in the public eye for a long time, so that you can buy into the character more. They are that person. You see that with Marvel a lot. Like, you see that person walking down the street and you're like, holy crap, that is Iron Man. That is, Spider-Man, whoever. And even with, like, Henry Cavill is a great example. I didn't know who he was before he was Superman. And to me, he's Superman. I can't buy him as the Witcher or anything else he's doing, because that's freaking Superman, right? So when you cast people in these roles that have a past.
Stockatron, what's up, man?
Largely in the public eye, right? I have a difficulty accepting people in that role. And with the exception of the scene in the trailer where his mask is off, I'm like, oh, okay, I can see that. He's got the chin line for it. He certainly has the acting chops to do it. I hate the Twilight phenomenon with an absolute fiery passion. But it was not written or filmed for me. I was never the target audience. I accept that. And I the only times I've watched any of those films is like with a riff tracks or a parody or a review or something, which made it mildly tolerable, right? But the one thing that I took away from those films is that you have this guy who clearly has acting chops, and he's holding back because his co-star has all of the charisma of a wet piece of cardboard. Okay, nothing against her as a person or as an actor. I think a lot of it came down to direction and the script. And I'm sad is not an acting choice. It's, there's when you are reading a script, there's a tone to the script, and you have to inject something into it. Granted, I am not the caliber of actor in terms of exposure or experience that any of these people are, but even I know that. You know what I mean? So when he gets cast as the Batman / Bruce Wayne, I go, he's going to have to really pump it up in order for this to mean anything. I was concerned about Christian Bale because I know his movies before then. I'm like, am I going to be able to buy this guy as Batman? He sold it. He really did. Whether or not you like the way he portrayed it, that's an opinion, a choice, whatever. But it didn't seem like he was Christian Bale playing Batman. He was Batman, and he was Bruce Wayne. And he honestly, I think, did one of the best turns when it comes to the duality of the character. Looking back, by comparison, you look at Michael Keaton's Batman Bruce Wayne, which was still a great performance, no question. Okay, I liked his take on this unassuming person going out at night and doing this thing, but I always felt that his Bruce Wayne was far too at ease. He was too comfortable doing what he was doing.
Right.
It was like. But again, this is having context looking back, right? And I think that Keaton had the potential to really struggle more with the duality, which I think shows in Batman Returns to a certain degree, right? Although I would argue that Michelle Pfeiffer did a better job of that in her role as Catwoman because she was new to it and she was struggling with the duality. And I think that is something, the angst that comes from, I'm doing this because my parents were brutally killed, and I've been training for 20 years to do this thing. Now I finally get to do it. And you come to the scene in the Batman trailer where he, spoilers, beats the snot out of a dude. And not just like showing skill. He's showing anger. He's showing restraint. Speed and restraint in terms of knowing the technique of what he's doing. But you can tell there's emotion behind it. Like every single hit is like he's trying to hit Joe Chill.
Awesome.
You know what I mean? It's really, in that little, I was like, okay, in that moment, I buy him as Batman. For me, the selling point's going to be, what does he do as Bruce Wayne? If it's his Edward character with a suit on and a butler, I'm going to be really pissed off. Yeah. There's going to be a brooding aspect to it. He's going to have angst. I'm prepared for that. But I am wary. I am cautiously optimistic about it. I think the overall film, that argument aside, looks to be something really interesting when you consider how little of the film had been shot for that trailer to be put together. Their take on who is obviously the Riddler. I think the costume design, I question it a little bit, actually. Like covering your head with duct tape, like really? Okay, sure. I understand, and this is where I start to, for me, the whole ultra realistic Gotham kind of falls apart for me a little bit. If I can buy that this guy has body armor and all this other stuff, I also understand that he's a billionaire, this and that. You have to show that the person who aspires to do the opposite may not have the resources. But I have to be honest, if I were going to do that, I'd like to think that someone as smart as the Riddler, with all of the choices and power he has to create these really robust riddles for the Batman, the world's greatest detective, to unravel. When you look at the subtext of what other villainous forces are most likely at play, who might be pretty big. Yes, that was a pun. If you caught it, great. If not, I'm not going to spoil it. I would try something a little bit more practical than duct tape for my mask. Okay. Yeah. But if that's my biggest complaint about the character and the way that they're showing so far, I think we're going to be okay. It feels like they're really doubling down to bring my whole argument around. It sounds like they're going more detective on this one. And when he does go into fight mode, you get to see that restraint just go out the window because this is a new Batman. It's not a experienced or trusted individual as shown in the trailer. I think there's a lot of potential to kind of explore these story opportunities that we really haven't gotten, that you could have done in Batman Begins, but the story just wasn't going in that direction. I like the idea of this being like the first few months where he's just really, really getting started. Whereas that was more of a montage in Batman Begins, where you're just kind of like, well, I'm out here, I'm doing this. And yeah, there's some cool like back and forth with the like, well, these masks came back and they're brittle, we gotta buy more. And there were some cool touches of that, and I hope that we see more in-depth stuff with it. So the trailer was great. I worry a little bit, but I always do that when a Batman is coming out. And Ben Affleck's Batman, I was in the same place, but then he comes out and I'm like, him as Batman, like, I fucking buy top to bottom, back to front. He was a great Bruce Wayne, a great Batman. And the shame of it is he had, without exception, horrible scripts to work with. Hopefully the Zack Snyder Justice League shows him off the way he deserves to be shown off. And I'm really upset that he's never going to get to do, like, he was supposed to be Batman in this. It was a totally different take on the whole thing, but they took the title and the production company went and did this, which I'm okay with. But we're not going to get that Batman. So in the absence of that, I will take this. We will see.
I think the only reservation that I have is that it's almost like they're doubling down on the grunginess.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's like, it's almost like when they were pitching this, they said, okay, so imagine Seven, the movie Seven, but instead of detectives, it's Batman and Commissioner Gordon.
I can play devil's advocate here. Okay.
What?
All right. So you and I, we're really good friends. We hang out, not as much as we should, but for a stretch there,
COVID,
we were hanging out a couple hours at a time, and I'm just plying you with stuff. And I will always throw music at you with reckless abandon, even though it's not your thing. Well, music is, but not this kind. And I was like, listen to this thing you won't like. Listen to this other thing you won't like. But the example that I'll give is like Napalm Death. The first album in 1987 sounds like the Muppet Show on meth and PCP sped up. Is what it sounds like, because this vocal style wasn't really refined. People weren't training their voices to do it. So what is now at the time was and the high voice from this little 5'0" drummer. So it sounded like Animal and Cookie Monster leading the charge, with everyone else going as fast as they can, and everything's falling off the rails. It's beautiful chaos. But then you fast forward 10 years in 97, where actually all of the members had changed out at some point. They had done the crazy fast stuff to a point. They had matured, and there's a lot more chord progression and song structure. It's still bombastic, it's still crazy, but there's focus and there's purpose, right? So what if this film, The Batman, showcases this early primitive grindcore version of the Batman, and over a potential series he matures, keeps the grit, but there's more control, there's more expressiveness. He comes out of the darkness just enough to become a more mature crime fighter, a more wizened detective, better at the duality.
Oh yeah,
keep some of the anger in check. I think that would be a cool way to do it. You start super grindcore and end up somewhere in this refined industrial metal place. You know what I mean? I think you could, because I don't think you can sustain 777. You can't, because then you have the Saw phenomenon, where it's just
the same thing.
Because like if like the fifth or sixth Saw movie was the first one, while it wouldn't have had as much impact as the first, viscerally, it would have been like, whoa, what is this? But when you've seen it 5 times the exact same way, it loses its impact, right? So they're not going to be able to keep that level of intensity without changing some perspective or tone somehow. And without character progression, without showing that this Bruce Wayne is learning from his experiences, I think that's a lost opportunity. I think it's something we haven't seen, and I hope, whether this is a standalone or they're going franchise, personally, I think it'll be a standalone film, which I'd be fine with. But if they go franchise with it, do a trilogy or something, they are going to need to hop from one lily pad to the other. They're going to have to go Frogger on this one and cross the street and not get run over, because that would be a weird sound effect in a Batman film that's just not going to work. It's not.
And it's weird because I guess, I mean, from a character point of view, I completely agree with you. And this is supposed to be him in year 2. That's
right.
what this is supposed to be. I guess my whole thing was not just from a character standpoint, but from a visual standpoint. It's almost like they sat the executives down and they showed them 7 and then said, this is what we're doing, but with Batman. Because it looks like Fincher. You know what I mean? It looks just like that movie. The soft, out of focus, the browns, there's so much about it that looks like 7 to me.
Yes, and what I will say is that what both of those films seem to share, because we haven't seen that much of this, but it's dark without being like, I can't see shit, like that's, and I think too many films get into this place where they sparsely light and then do that filter, I don't know what it's called, where you just take all the exposure out to where you've just got like outlines of stuff, and it's stupid. So many films did that, including Twilight. It was like the whole film was they were shooting day for night, but that wasn't really what they were doing. It was weird lighting wise. So I feel like visually, I think for what they're trying to do, it appears that they are accomplishing that. The unanswered question is, well-crafted trailers aside, can this deliver on all of its promises, all of its opportunities, give us a great story that is also a great Batman story? Or is this going to be a tribute to 7 that happens to have Batman as the protagonist in it? That is really the question that has to be answered here. That said, look at what Marvel has done with the idea of creating genre pieces for main characters. If you'd have told me 20 years ago that my favorite Captain America film would be a spy thriller, I'd have said, whatever you're on, please share it because it must be amazing. But The Winter Soldier came out, it was a spy thriller, and I fucking loved it. Loved it. Very unlikely sequel for a Captain America film. So my mind is open. It can be done. So bring it. What I really want to see, and I feel like I'll never see this, we have it in animation, but we're probably never going to get this in a live action. I would love a black and white, noir, heavy detective Batman flick where he barely fights, where you barely see the physical aspects of him other than moving around and stuff. And it's all just really
stealthy
and heavy on, you got the voiceover, the whole thing, like kind of like where the Arkham Asylum, there was a lot of quiet moments where he's talking, it's like, okay, so you've got this here and this is happening. You could do that in a film at a brisk pace and tell a really cool tale. But, and this is where the argument comes with, well, you could do that in TV series, you could do this, you could do that. Because comics, there are so many things you could do that when you talk about these large scale movies, maybe they're not going to work. Honestly, I just wish everyone had all the millions of dollars and could just try everything. But that's not the reality that we live in, and that makes me sad.
Yeah, because I would love to see that too. And I guess that's the thing that's really, even though to me it seems very almost in the way that The Dark Knight was like Heat, that this is like 7.
Yes.
But I'm cool with that. And the reason I'm cool with that is because it's going to be the first time that we really see Batman as the world's greatest detective. That's what
Presumably.
I mean, yeah, at least that's what they're trying to sell to us, at least. And I'm really excited about that because, you know, I mean, I'm trying to think. Every now and then you see little glimpses of it, you know, like him rebuilding the bullet in the Dark Knight, and you know what I mean, and kind of looking,
which was really cool.
Yeah, like all of that stuff is really neat, but it's not the focus, and it's not
right.
I don't know. It's like,
and it should be, and it's something where if they are managed to pull that off, and things like that fight scene are accents to an otherwise flowing detective story, I think it's going to be so much more effective, because I have a feeling there's going to be like a 45-minute buildup, and that's one of, if not the first time you see him just go poof, and you're like, oh shit, I forgot about that part of him. You know, I hope that they show restraint on the physicality, and when they do show it off, they do it in a way that's like, oh, okay. Because he's like this really tightly wound rubber band, and if you just give him a reason to do it, he's gonna. Because that's to me what a Bruce Wayne in year 2 would be like, because he's so angry, and he's had no he's been for 20 years. He's been like, oh, fucking crime, you know, like damn it, crime. You know? My parents are dead, crime. Let's go. Spoilers, Bruce Wayne's parents are dead.
Yeah, nobody knows that. I can't believe you let that slip.
Speaking of spoilers, and I'm not going to spoil it, have you seen online that they decrypted the card, the clue in the card?
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah.
you saw what it was?
I haven't looked into it. I just heard it was like hey, the thing in the whatever, and I was like, okay. And then I just had to go back to it.
Apparently it was someone, they had to brute force crack the code. They did it, and it's a really clever riddle. It's like, you know, like when you read it, if you just read it normal, you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's by itself, you're like, okay, that's good. But when you add to that this encryption code thing to it, it makes it neat. I have a feeling they're going to get more complex as time goes on, because there wasn't that many characters in it. But it's if you look into that and you slow-mo your way through the trailer, that little nugget of a spoiler I let out earlier, I think that's where that's going to go. I have worries and hopes about, and again, I'm not going to, if anyone listening picked up on what I was talking about, like, I don't want to spoil it. If you look at his gauntlet and what's on his gauntlet, there is a character in the Batman history that had a very similar implement in the same place. You have to wonder if there might be, say, a conspiracy going on that even he is not aware of, and that he's being gently pushed in directions with his quest, perhaps benefiting some unseen people.
I'm down.
Which is, it is an insanely cool idea. I hope that the people that are speculating this are correct. Normally when I see these kind of theories that to take very little and make a big thing out of it, I'm like, man, that would be cool.
You mean like Jar Jar as a Sith Lord?
That should have been a thing. I'm sorry. I think that Misa going to kill you now. But what if that wasn't really his voice? You know what I mean?
And he's just like, so what's up, guys? I'm going to take over now.
I mean, that's not really what I think his voice would be. That'd be kind of funny. But that would be, how awesome would it have been in Last Jedi, one of our favorite conversations to have. What if Snoke turned out to be Ahmad Best in makeup? And he's like, listen, I've had enough. I've been manipulated my entire life, and now you are gonna die. You know, which is great.
Yeah, like you wanna say that let's subvert some expectations here. That would have been
Ryan. Yeah, it would have been really cool to do
It would have been the greatest thing ever or the worst thing ever.
And you still could have had the same moment. Like, it could have been the same exact plot. You just add in the fact that, oh, by the way, look at this. And then immediately Kylo Ren's like, fuck this guy. Like, cuts him in half. You still get the same scene. It's still like,
I don't know.
Wow, what is, oh. It would be kind of cool. But we're never going to get that. And that's fine. It's okay. Yoshi, if you're watching this, I would love to see, just take Snoke in the throne scene right before he gets cut, that clip everyone uses when he's talking about, oh, it turns the lightsaber. Just change his head to Jar Jar for me. You don't even have to do a lip sync if you don't want to. I just want Jar Jar's head on that body so I can see it. Okay? I want that in my life. Yoshi, I know you're too busy, but if you're still watching this and you have a free moment sometime in the next year or so, hook a brother up. Okay. All right. Please. I love you. All right.
It's man, Star Wars. Yeah. Now, hey, have you been paying attention to? All right, you may not have. You said you've been kind of worky.
I've read articles here and there, but I just don't know if what you're about to say is something I have. So hit me with it, sir.
So the High Republic. Do you know anything about that?
Justin is really
no, not,
shit. No, okay. No, I don't know.
It's the new, I guess the new way. This was not on my list, by the way. It's just like
okay.
But
since you brought up Star Wars,
yeah, I mean, why not? We're there. It's sort of the new era that they're gonna play in. Instead of trying to, because that's the problem with this is going to take place between episodes 2 and 3, or this is between 3 and 4. Sure. Is that you're trapped in that area where you can't. You have to honor what came before it, and you have to watch what you do to connect to the next thing.
So they're going between like the Old Republic and
200 years ago. Yeah,
so they're going before Old Republic even.
No, it's 200 years before the Phantom Menace. So the Jedi are still it's the highest, I guess.
So they're basically reestablishing the universe with a clean slate, but so because it sounds like what Lucas was trying to do with the prequels was establish like the Jedi Order and what it is. Mm-hmm. Really, what he showed was the ending of that. So this High Republic, based on what you're telling me, is
the Jedi in their
heyday.
prime.
This is the heyday. This is the thing.
Peace.
But it's you probably will see a young Yoda, because at that point he's still like 500, right? At least, well, even older than that. Yeah, would be great. I mean, I can imagine like a spry pimp Yoda going like,
Well, that's what's funny is that
dinner I go.
They just released concept art of that.
Really?
Of a young Yoda.
No cane? No,
he's still got a cane. Because I mean, if you think about it, and this was something that I was watching earlier, was that if you think about it, you basically have to divide by 10. So he was 900 years old when he died. So he's probably 90. So this is probably a 70-year-old Yoda.
That's fair. No, that's fair. You know, I was thinking Yoda pimp cane, hashtag Yoda pimp cane. But I'm down with that, you know.
But yeah, like it looks interesting. I guess my whole thing is I don't want them to. The one thing that I hate about any of that kind of stuff is the elbow technique.
Yes.
Like that. Hey, remember when with the thing we're gonna show that. Yes, I hate that. So it's kind of like when they first announced it.
What if Yoda is like the Rod Serling of this series? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What if he's just like, you're not seeing it from his perspective. He's not a major player in it. He's just an observer, right?
And he's kind of telling the story. It'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. It'd be hard to follow. Speech patterns not normal. They are not.
Yeah.
But I think
chapter 3 starts first, and then no.
Quentin Tarantino's Star Wars. That would be awesome. Can you imagine that?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Lucasfilm, if you're listening, Lucasfilm, I want a Mace Windu prequel with Quentin Tarantino at the helm.
It'll never
tell
happen.
the story. I know it'll never happen. But just like, you just kind of like you mix the Mace Windu character from the prequels with a younger kind of Julius-esque kind of thing, I'm a lightsaber laying motherfucker. I would, take my money, all of it. I will watch that so hard.
Yeah, it's like a grab my lightsaber. Which one is it? It's the one that says bad motherfucker.
My name's Mace, and you ain't getting hit with nothing but this lightsaber.
It's just I don't know. It would be fun, but again, my whole thing is that you're still, I mean, you got 200 years to play with, but you're still kind of like, okay, you can't go too crazy because the thing and the blah blah blah, and then of course it's not the Sith that's the big danger in this era,
because the Sith were like, it was like
they'd been extinct
1,000 years for like 1,000 years, right?
Yeah.
But couldn't you show?
There's a really cool setup for this era.
Okay.
That they've already kind of when they kind of announced it, they announced it a few months ago.
Sure.
I think it was pre-COVID actually when they announced it, but they said that basically what this is an era of peace. The Jedi are the best, they're good. They're not soldiers. They're just an order that helps to keep the peace. That's all they are. Everything's good. And what happens is a new crime organization basically finds a way to disrupt hyperspace patterns. So they can pull ships out of hyperspace and it wrecks crap. And so that's basically the start of it, is that they released like the first chapter of this book, which is written by the guy that's been doing the Star Wars continuity for Marvel. And apparently he's been doing a really good job. I haven't read a whole lot of it, but I read the first chapter and was like, okay, I'm in. This sounds awesome. So I don't know.
Is this like this sounds like almost if you think of the Jedi as a police force in a sense, and this is like a Untouchables, but with Jedi almost kind of thing.
I don't really know. I mean, I don't think anybody knows yet. But they're doing it. The big question is, of course they're doing some books have already been announced, but are they doing other? They going to do a TV series? Are they going to do a movie? We don't know.
What I think a mini series on Disney Plus could do really well, if you tell a contained story in this environment, you go Mandalorian with it, where even if the Mandalorian never gets made again, even though it is. That's even with the stinger at the end, that little, here's what's happening. If you to take that off the very end of that last episode, right? This revelation of this antagonist, it's a contained story. And it's a really well done story.
Yeah, it's good.
You could do the same thing with this. And I think what we have been hoping for, this is, and if it is done in that visual style, a film or a short series or whatever, we've all been hoping, I think, as fans, for play with the universe you have. You don't have to nod to, it doesn't have to be a solo film. It doesn't have to be a Kenobi film, although those certainly are welcome. I think the solo film only, ages better with time, honestly.
It's good. I enjoy it.
Yeah, it truly is. I think a Boba Fett film could be really great, because those would argue, ruin Boba Fett. Well, we could argue that the prequels ruined Boba Fett. I don't think so. I think Boba is a better character for it and deserves more development. It would be cool to see, not necessarily a Mandalorian concept, because that was a Western. I don't want to see Boba Fett in a Western. But I would love to see an episodic thing, just a 5-episode miniseries is all I need, right? Of kind of how he went from Geonosis after what happened with his dad. Spoilers, his dad gets his head cut off by the pimp with a purple lightsaber. It was cool.
Spoilers
You
for an
could-
18-year-old movie.
Right. You could start with the image of him holding his father's head in his hands.
Yeah.
And then each episode, you just go forward like 2 years. You know, you get what 20 years to play, and each time it's a longer time. The first one's 2, then one's 3, then 4, then 5, and then it's right before, and then basically the series ends with him flying Slave 1 to and it docks at the start of the Super Star Destroyer, and that's the end of the series. You know, maybe it's you know what I'm saying. I could see that.
The one thing that I
know?
love about Star Wars is that there's room to play with genre, right? You
Yes.
can write a bunch of different styles of movie.
Right.
The
So what
Mandalorian
if
is
you-
literally a Western.
Right. So this could be the hitman sniper thriller thing,
Or-
like the Professional, but Boba Fett.
See, one of the things that I was thinking was that it would be cool if Boba Fett got some of the other bounty hunters together and they have to pull a heist. And so the 5-episode little arc is them trying to pull off this heist. Them trying to,
Flashbacks that tell characterization.
yes,
Okay. I'm in.
that
Take
would
my
be
money.
awesome. But see,
Yes.
my thing is that, you know, I love Boba Fett. I do. It's something that, you know, on my like 15-year-old podcast, I used to get crap all the time for it because it's like Boba Fett's the least interesting character. He comes up in a cool suit and then he dies. That's all he does but there's mystery there, and that's one of the things that I've always liked is not being told everything. And one of my favorite parts of Empire Strikes Back is when Vader comes out and he's like, we want them alive, all that kind of stuff.
No
and there's
disintegrations.
all of these bounty hunters with no explanations. Where are those guys? Where's Zuckuss? Where's Forlome? We've
What's
already kind of
cool
seen when
about that-
IG-88 with IG-11.
But I like that. That's what I liked about the Mandalorian. Is that you kind of get your fix without it being
Yes.
that.
Right.
It was smart. And I mean, I don't want more of that per se. I think that you could, because what you're pitching with Boba could easily be done and still not show very much.
Right.
Like he's sitting there and he's going, something happens that is unexpected during the heist. Someone gets killed, not on the team, but maybe he's like, I don't want anyone to get hurt during this. We're here for the money. This isn't about this isn't about killing anybody. This is this is about profit. Don't get stupid in there. And then a guard gets killed. And then he goes, he says something like his family, and then it just has a real quick flash of just 2 frames holding the helmet. Then, you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Just be careful. Like that kind of thing. Like it would be really cool to do things like that.
Well, and that's one of the things that they did in the Clone Wars, the series, is that Boba Fett showed up from time to time. Oh, come on. I said the series, not theory. Anyway,
How can I help you?
But it's one of the cool things that they showed that the bounty hunters were ruthless when they had to be, but they had a code of honor.
Yeah.
And that, there was, I love that line of Vader saying no disintegrations, because it alludes to the fact that he's used Boba Fett before and he screwed it up. But Boba Fett,
and he's like, and you, motherfucker.
yeah, you stay in check. And then later on down the road, I love the fact that Boba Fett stands up to Vader. I mean, we've seen.
What if he doesn't survive? He's worth a lot to me.
Yes, it's like there's a history there that I mean, I don't need everything spelled out. That's one of the things about the prequels and about, any kind of story that you tell like that is that there's
they're filling in blanks. But you know about the Cheeseburger Jones blog I told you about, right? I think you've read it.
I think I read a little bit.
That's the name of the author. And it's a blog, Vader writing a blog about himself. Talks about like how his leg's fucked up and he's got to go like get it adjusted. And there's more than one instance where he and Boba Fett have a private booth in this cantina. And they're the only ones that trust the other with taking their mask off, which breaks some lore that we didn't know about when this was written. But they were both horrifically scarred. So they're okay with the other's company because they're like, well, we both eating mush, like whatever, it's fine. And like they had this like friendly enough relationship that he was always like, look, I'll throw you a bone when I can. We don't really deal in mercenaries too often, you know that. But if there's something that falls outside of what we do, I've got your back. He's like, I appreciate that, but I don't like being strung along, like kind of. It was a cool, like they're friendly, but Boba doesn't take any shit. And Vader's like, all right, fine.
I love that.
About sand.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He plays little jokes on him. He puts sand in his helmet or something.
What the fuck, Boba?
But yeah, it's one of those things where I don't need everything spelled out, but it would be cool to have little tidbits like that. And that's one of the things that was really, really, really cool about The Mandalorian is that there were there's these hints of other things going on that we don't know the whole story, and we may never get it. But that's the kind of thing that makes it feel like a real world, is when, people talk about things that we don't know about. And that's the wonderful thing about A New Hope. We came in the middle of the story, and everybody knows who Vader is, but we don't. And we have to learn about him along the way. That's one of the things about, it's just an interesting filmmaking story technique that one of the things I love about Star Wars. I just don't want them to spell it all out all the time.
Right. What you could do with that concept, what if, remember the show Droids, the cartoon, which followed C-3PO and R2-D2 around? What if you took like maybe 3 droids, almost like a Three Stooges kind of thing, okay? Now, they're bumbling, they get like an Abbott Costello, Three Stooges, they get themselves into weird, crazy scrapes for no good reason. And instead of linking their things to direct events by way of witnessing them, what if they just miss everything? Like they're 3 janitorial droids. And the first time you meet them, they're on let's say they're on Coruscant, and they're cleaning up after like some weird wine spill after like the negotiations go crazy. Like they're talking about the Trade Federation doing their thing, and it's like, they just throw the table, and they're like, would they get so angry? I don't understand. Biological people are weird. And then the next thing they're like, why are we being assigned to Naboo? Oh, it's a mess. The whole place is just messed up. Well, it's good work. And then you see him cleaning up, and then you see like the Gungan king just walk by. It's like, oh, I would hate to go in the bathroom after him. Like, well, I don't want to tell you what we're doing next. God damn it. Like that. Those little kind of brushes with it where like they just miss everything. And so you get your fix of like, ooh, but you see it from the ground floor.
It's kind of funny that you say that, because they've been doing it's like a series of short stories in books, and it's called From a Certain Point of View.
Oh, jeez.
And they did it with New Hope. So some of the side characters that you don't know anything about, they tell like a little short story about them. And then they did it with Empire Strikes Back. They did it with the Clone Wars. And then I assume they're going to do it with Return of the Jedi in 3 years. But they did it this year. I don't even know if it's out yet. But I read the first one for New Hope, and there were some really cool little, like, wow, I totally never thought about that guy. And it's interesting to see that he has a story and he has a life, and it tells just a little little
Why
side
look
story.
at like a lot of the comedic opportunities too? Like, what if you did like the Office style show, like a 6-part miniseries, but it's the crew of the blockade runner in the days leading up to the ending of Rogue One, and then your whole cast gets killed off in that corridor.
I just there. Yeah, that's one of the things that Robot Chicken did very well for a long time. Of course, the Family Guy stuff. To a lesser extent, I think the Family Guy is a little on the nose with their humor, but
but
Robot Chicken,
they were direct remakes, whereas Robot Chicken and Family Guy itself does have like little I want like the whole Death Star contractor. Like I think the Robot Chicken, one of the best ones in the one special they did. Hey, look, Mr. Salty, and I don't tell you how to like mess with your blonde kid or anything. Why just let me do my job here?
Well, my favorite one was the like, hold on a second, I got a call, and he's like, hey Vader, what's up? Yeah. What? How did that happen?
Fuck!
And then he's like, what the hell is an aluminum Falcon?
Falcon.
I love that, dude. It's so...
You're where?
Yeah.
You've been floating around deep space for 2 weeks. You must smell like
yeah.
burnt bacon and leathery. I don't even want to. Oh,
that is some of the stuff they've done is so great. But then, and I love the, oh my god, the one Ponda Baba, the Walrus Man guy.
That's not what I said.
Yeah, he's like, he doesn't like you. What are you talking about? I like you. It's just, it's so funny.
Yeah, and of course, the pinnacle of it to me, the absolute pinnacle, Jar Jar Binks showing up as a Force ghost.
Yeah,
or showing up, the whole thing, who actually shows up.
Yeah.
But the sound when he goes up the airlock, I couldn't breathe. I was laughing so hard, like woo, and then you just see his like that. For whatever reason, I lost my mind because I was like, thank you so much for that.
It's weird though, man, because
Jar Jar, my main man, quick into the airlock before the Separatists attack.
This is escape the way in the pod.
I get why people don't like Jar Jar, but especially after the Clone Wars. After the Clone Wars, the Clone Wars did that kind of thing where they would drop him into some episodes, and sometimes he was annoying, and then sometimes you're like, okay, wait a minute, there's a purpose to his bumbling whatever, and I ended up by the end of it, it was like, man, I kind of like Jar Jar now. It's like it's just I don't know, it's a weird thing that happened, but
well, I didn't like in Phantom Menace he straight up stole a Bill Cosby joke. Maybe Taugen.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, if you're gonna steal from a rapist, I guess it's okay, but still, we didn't know that at the time.
21 years ago, yeah, we didn't know that, which is amazing to think about.
Bill Cosby is a predator.
It's just amazing.
Cool kind.
21 years ago that movie came out. It's amazing.
Thanks.
Hey,
amazing. Yeah, that we're still alive.
Yeah.
Right. So we could talk about Star Wars for like another hour, but we're not going to.
Yeah.
What else is on the list?
The next thing. I was kind of curious. Like, where are you in the Godfather? Like, are you like greatest trilogy of all time? Or are you like,
All right, you ready for a big shocker?
What's that?
I've never seen any of them. Not a one. Never sat down to watch them. Not once.
Okay, let me ask this. Have you ever seen Apocalypse Now?
Yes, both versions. And I like that film a lot.
There's 3 versions now, apparently.
Really?
Yeah. He did the Redux.
Right.
And I have both of those. But then last year he did a final cut, which really is just, he said, okay, I love Redux, but it went too far. It's too long.
So he pared it back.
Yeah. So it's basically, so original cut, Redux, final cut. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Anyway,
yeah.
So I envy you to be able to watch the Godfather series for the first time. Now, is there a reason why? Is there a? I'm curious.
I've heard all the quotes. You know what I mean? I know enough about the films to know, like, okay, that's cool.
You stole my design, you son of a. That's not from Godfather.
No. My favorite, honestly, my favorite Godfather quote is actually from the third one.
What's that?
Just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in. And I remember that as a kid from the trailer and going like, well, okay, well, there's the whole premise of the film, I guess.
Yeah.
This guy that was in this thing. And at the time, I thought Al Pacino was really that old.
Yeah.
So, like, years later, when he shows up in one of my favorite films of all time, relatively young, in The Devil's Advocate, I'm like, wait a minute.
I'm a fan of man.
That's right. And then you got, like, it was the same thing with Max von Sydow in Conan the Barbarian. I thought he was that old. They did such a good job of portraying him as this old king. Then you see him as Ming, like, that guy's virile as fuck. Like, okay, like, like what is? So it was, So is there a particular reason? I just never got around to it. I'm aware of its place in film pantheon. I respect everyone involved with it. I just never. And I like gangster films, like Goodfellas and Casino are two of my favorite movies. Casino almost more so than Goodfellas. What, that I like those films, or that I haven't seen them?
That you're such a fan of the genre and you hadn't seen.
Well, okay, all right. So think of it like this: someone who loves the current DC stuff because they're out there, never seen the original Superman.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, like, I like those because, again, we're not talking about Scorsese having made Godfather. That's a different tone, right? I love the Scorsese stuff so much, and that style of stuff so much. Maybe there's a subconscious thing of, like, this will be boring by comparison. Because I had heard, no? Okay.
Oh, no.
Maybe. Oh, no.
I feel like as a, I mean, it's a multi faceted kind of thing, because I feel like you would be interested just from a film point of view, like somebody who enjoys not just the movie itself, but the making of the movie, the style, the way that it's shot, all those things, the techniques involved. I just think that you would be, I mean, it's, oh my gosh, to never have seen Godfather. I'm so jealous, but I will say this.
I will give you another thing before you go on.
Okay.
Another comparison, right? We've all met people who haven't seen Star Wars.
Yeah.
But yet they've seen tons of films that
are based
would never
on
have happened without Star Wars.
Right.
You go back and you see it and you go, oh, I'm worried about that too. Because the Godfather influenced so many other things. Am I going to be like, oh, well, I see why this is innovative and this is a great story or whatever, but I don't regard it the same way other people do. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the guy that says, I saw it finally and it was really good. No question. I totally see what the deal is. But I'm not going to go out and get a Godfather t-shirt.
Right.
Don't talk him like this. I worry about that.
I get it. I get it.
But that said, you had a point to make, and I'm totally stepping on it.
No, it's okay. First, Zap Crystal, how you doing? I saw that you did an interview with 8-Bit Eric yesterday, or that you released the interview yesterday. I can't wait to see that. I haven't watched it yet, but yes, everybody go check out that. After this show, of course.
Right.
But
we're busy right now. This is live.
Yeah.
Dang it.
But Godfather. Oh my God. Okay, so I don't think that you would have that kind of issue. It's kind of like I watched 2001 when I was like 22.
Same, actually.
Right?
Yeah.
And the first time I watched it, I was kind of like, yeah, okay. I get it. I see it. I see the thing. I don't understand all the weird trippy stuff at the end, but I get why it's so...
Don't.
Oh, see, I love that now.
In general, as a filmmaker, with the exception of Clockwork Orange, damn,
Nightbot.
Yeah, what are you doing over there, Mr. Nightbot, sir?
Sorry.
It was only 3 claps. She got timed out for 3 whole claps.
I don't know. I've changed the Nightbot settings so many times, and it keeps.
But Kubrick, with the exception of
sorry, Crystal.
Of Clockwork Orange, for the most part, I find exceedingly well. No, that and Full Metal Jacket, but I have my issues with that film too. He's kind of like a visual filmmaker that likes the sound of his own voice visually a little too much. He's a little too much in love with, like, look at this shot. And I appreciate that, but when those visuals get in the way of the story, it's like the old George Lucas thing about special effects. You're trying to tell a story here. And, quoting the Red Letter Media guys, okay, cut. You can cut away now. Cut away. Jeez, kind of thing. Like with Full Metal Jacket, the first half of that movie, like, I watch it and then usually I turn it off. Second half of the movie's great, but I watch them separately. If I'm in the mood, like, because it fits 2 moods. As a whole film, yes, there's a journey of this character, and maybe it's because I was in the Marines and you see both sides of that, and there's a certain romanticism for boot camp for me, because it was a much simpler time for me versus what happened after. And there was a purity to it. And that does a great job of explaining that if you stay in the lines in boot camp, you're okay. But if you don't, Godzilla help you, kind of thing, right? And certainly I think the better ensemble is the boot camp ensemble. I feel like the second half of Full Metal Jacket is the continuing stories of Joker and a bunch of people that were cheap to hire, is what it feels like. It is the last half of that film should have been the 3rd act, honestly. Should have been a 3-act film, and it wasn't. It was a 2-act film, really. You think about it. Because you have, like, an act, a quarter of an act where it sets up the last act. So it's like, that whole last battle is drawn way too far out. And then as soon as you find out that they shot that whole thing on a back lot in freaking the UK, and they just flew in palm trees. Pine trees would have been funny. But like, oh, this palm tree, Merry Christmas. As soon as you realize that he did that, one, you're like, ooh, that's genius, but also, ew. So there's like he's so smugly intelligent, and as soon as you are aware of that fact, the films kind of lose their luster, right? So, shit. so
that's Kubrick.
Right, Kubrick. So, like, 2001, that ending, even if I go back and watch it, I'm like, I'll see what it's going for, but it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, you don't need that. Like, in 2001, there's so much stuff you do not need to tell that story. The actual film is the middle third, and it's a great story. But why do I need to see?
It's almost
like the Neanderthal man. Why do I need to see all this other crap at the end?
I feel like it's a poem. That movie is it's an artistic poem to me. And that first section, I mean, of course, it's all about, man's evolution.
Sure.
Right.
I get that conceptually what he was going for, but
that whole going through hyperspace or whatever that is,
he's just beating you over the head with it for too long.
But that's also something that at that time was such an amazing thing to see.
Sure.
That it was one of those things where it was a little too much. But it's kind of like the first time that you had fire. Do you think they were they were subtle about it. No, they set fire to everything because it was like, look, oh my God, we could do this. That's kind of like what that was to me. It was way too much, way too fast. And Crystal, it timed you out for 5 seconds. I hope you're still here, and I hope you weren't scared away by friggin' Nightbot. And it was basically symbols. I had the symbols spam protection turned on, so sorry about that. But yeah, I get what you're saying, and I get your train of thought there. All I want to tell you is that Godfather's awesome, and you should just
okay.
You should watch it with that. Huh?
You brought it up for a reason. There's some news about Godfather?
The Godfather? Yes. Oh. Yeah, the reason I bring it up is because, so, to give you a bit of background, because you're not a Godfather aficionado like I am, R.A. Juther, thank you for the follow. Hi. So The Godfather 1, 2, and 3, they were all nominated for Best Picture.
Yes.
Godfather 1 and 2 won Best Picture. Okay.
Yes.
Godfather 3 to most people is the worst one. And I would pretty much, I think almost everyone can agree that The Godfather 3 is a little weaker than the other two. Some people hate The Godfather 3.
But by comparison, less strong, though, if you really look at it realistically.
Yeah.
If you look at it contextually, because those first two films have such high regard.
Yeah.
The bar is so high.
Yeah, but I think
I always got the impression that if you say it was weaker, well, how much weaker, right? I've never heard people say that Godfather 3 is like not worth watching. They just say when you compare it to the other two, you're like,
Yeah, it's kind of like, to me, it's like a lot like Star Wars in a way. You know, yeah, there's some movies that are better, but taken by themselves, if you took that out of Star Wars and just put it out as a movie, it'd still be better than 99% of the stuff that's
you take away the expectation, the film stands up on its own.
Yeah, but it is in many ways the weakest of the three. And I won't get into why, because that would be spoilers for you. But I will say that I still really enjoy it for many different reasons. There's a
like
whole
The
lot
Last
to like.
Jedi, so no.
Thanks. Thanks.
Kidding.
Yes, I do, actually.
It's a meme. It's a meme. It's just a
it's
meme, guys. I like The Last Jedi as well.
But
for different reasons.
But what he's doing, what Francis Ford Coppola is doing, is because I don't want to get into a reason why or speculate why, because I feel like Coppola, in a lot of ways, he hasn't been as prolific artistically in the last 20 years. So maybe
he's trying to remind people that, hey, I made this, guys. I made this, by the way.
Because he's been doing a lot of these director's cuts or final cuts or whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
So what he's doing with Godfather 3 is he's recutting it. And he's releasing it theatrically in December. And I assume that there will be, and of course there's all kinds of restorations that are being done on the movies. In fact, you know what we need to do is maybe sometime later, maybe look at that Movies Anywhere sharing thing and see if Godfather's on there. If it is, maybe I'll just send an invite your way. Look, the thing is with Godfather, it is a cultural phenomenon for sure, but it's also taken outside of that. If you can allow yourself to separate your memories of its significance, I guess.
Its legacy,
and just watch it. It's an amazing movie. They're all three of them. They tell a story that is captivating, and it's like
I went back and watched Citizen Kane for the first time like 5 years ago, and I really enjoyed it. So if I can do that, I guess I can do this,
dude.
For you.
I'm telling you, you're gonna be like, I'll just say this. For me, seeing it, I saw it way later too, right? I mean, I think it was probably mid 2000s or whatever when I finally sat down and watched them. It was one of those things where, like The Sopranos, I rented the first disc of the first season, and I was like, I got a free rental, I'll check it out. Yeah, I rented the first disc and then went home, watched it, and immediately went back up to the store and got the rest of them. That's kind of how I was with Godfather. It was like, okay, I got to watch it all. And now, if it's on streaming or whatever, and especially like in the age of cable TV, it was hard for me to not watch it because it's one of those things. The story is so large and so like so dense that
but
you
I'll give
can
you
just get
counterpoints
lost in it.
though. Like, first of all, between you and me counterpoint, Flash Gordon. You know, I regard that film. And then you watch it like, meh. You know? And then also, I've never seen The Sopranos. And then also, Breaking Bad. I got 2 seasons in. I'm like, this is really cool, but I'm not going to dedicate the time to it. Sopranos, I know it's really well done. I'm not doing it. I won't.
I'm not telling you
but
to.
Like, I know you're not. But that's, and this is where I get into arguments with people where it's like, I understand that this is probably great, but in the little blip of time that is my life,
I get it.
I'm gonna quote Mark Maron here. I don't know how much time I have left, man. I don't know, because he has this whole bit about how he picks what he's going to watch based upon the fact that he doesn't know how long he's going to live. He's like, I don't know if that's how I want to use my time. You know, I don't. So that's where they go. But with The Godfather, that's a finite thing. I can totally do that. And if he's doing a cut of 3 and it's releasing in 3 months, what my brain says is watch the first 2, don't watch the third one, then put on a mask and a giant plastic bag and go to the theater and watch the third one fresh with whatever his new take is on it. Because it can, from what we've been told, chances are it can only get better. Plus, if it has better visual fidelity, I'm all in for that. Because I don't know a lot about that film, but it does sound like it was a rushed production on some level. That they were kind of pushing him to get it out. It's what I heard. Is that correct?
I want to say things, but I can't because it gives things away. There's yeah.
But there are story things that came in. It sounds like what you're saying. There are story things that happened because of behind the scenes context.
Yes.
That make the film less as a result.
Unfortunately, yes.
Is it being pitched that some of these issues are being corrected with this new cut?
I don't think so. Okay. I'll just say this.
Why is he doing it?
I'll say this. For those,
I know there's a lot of dead people in these films. So.
Right? No, I know, but I don't want to give anything away to you. But for those of you out there in the audience who have seen Godfather 3, you probably will understand what I'm saying, but it will preserve it for Jim. Okay? So I'm just going to say this. There were some actors that were going to be in Godfather 3 that, due to contract disputes and in one case an illness, prevented them from being in Godfather 3, which changed the story enough that there were some issues. Okay?
Like the story made less sense? They had to
Not so much that it didn't make sense. It was just one of those, oh yeah, so that happened to that character. And you're like, oh man. And then in another issue, of the movie, I'm trying to do this very carefully for you because I don't, like I said, just because I wouldn't want it ruined for me.
Sure.
There is an actress that was in the movie who wasn't the first choice. And the original actress would have been better fit and a better I think it would have been better. I'll just leave it there. So of course they're not reshooting anything.
Right.
They're not. There's no way for them to go back in time and handle those contract disputes and all that.
Irishman.
It would be no. In fact, I wouldn't want that.
No, because the Irishman was a cool experiment.
But yeah,
and
don't
I
do
feel
that.
Like,
Don't do that until you've figured some stuff out. Especially, if you're gonna have, 70-year-old Robert De Niro play 30-year-old Robert De Niro, maybe you should just get a 30-year-old and replace his face instead of having old 70-year-old Robert De Niro with a younger face. It was weird. Anyway.
Yeah, I see that. Because look at what they did 10 years ago. What they did with Captain America, with the body double and the scrawny Steve Rogers.
Dude.
So if you can do that,
there's definitely ways to do it. I think they did it the wrong way. Instead of having the actor Robert De Niro and then de-age his face, they should have young actor replace his face with a younger Robert De Niro.
I mean,
problem solved.
Rogue One.
Yes. Beautiful.
And there were
how many
issues
people
with Tarkin, but it was still really cool to see that character
and
in that way.
How many people were completely fooled and going, "Oh wow, I didn't know he was still alive."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Peter Cushing died in the mid '80s, so it was amazing the work that can be done, and it's getting better. Look at all the de-aging stuff they've done in the last I would say the last 5 years in the Marvel universe. It's ridiculous.
Oh yeah. I think that there's a space for it for sure. So I'm curious to see. So in your opinion, based on what you know about this,
it's more story based and editing based. I think is what he's doing.
More story than editing. So you just kind of plopping stuff in, kind of deal.
I think there was probably a lot of stuff shot that he said, nah, it doesn't really work. And because of running time and things like that, he was concerned with this and all that. But what it's being billed as, this I don't know what it's called, director's
a recut or whatever.
It's ridiculously long, the name of it. But can we replace Rob's face with Jim's? Probably. Yoshi could probably do that, but
that would be weird.
Not live. That would be weird.
There's this big, huge grape on his frame, and I don't think that would work at all.
It's
going
to be. Yeah, I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to see what exactly he does, because what happened was there. Mario Puzo is the writer of the books, The Godfather,
right.
and this idea for this, I guess, recut is more in line with what he and Puzo had kind of agreed on. And for whatever reason, I don't know all the reasons as to why it didn't turn out the way that they had wanted. But this is basically kind of almost in a way, there's a part of me that's like, yeah, it's just Coppola trying to keep busy and recutting his old hits, basically.
Sure.
It's like a greatest hits album.
Do you think, based on what you know, I would have a greater appreciation for it not having seen the original cut? Do you think that there's, again, I know you haven't seen it, but
yeah,
knowing what you know about the films and what this purports to do you think I would be better off?
Okay, I'll put it to you this way. I don't think it's going to make a difference for you either way. Like if you decided to just completely wait and then you go back later and watch Godfather 3, because I assume that what will probably end up happening eventually is that you'll probably end up buying the Blu-ray set or something like that. It probably won't matter, because The Godfather 3 is, while it is perfectly fine, it's not like the first two. It's not like he's recutting
polish and fix it. It's not. Yeah. Okay. So it's not going to be like
right.
It's not going to be this like now it fits perfectly. Like there's no way to do that with the material. I get that.
Okay. Look at it this way. From your point of view, Terminator 2. Do you remember seeing the original ending where it's like definitive? You've got an old, like a Linda Hamilton in old age makeup saying, "We did it," and this is, and you see adult John Connors, with the. We know that exists, and it doesn't affect the original film. If you had seen that prior, you'd probably be like, that's just another whatever.
Yeah, because the theatrical cut had the road, but then later you see what the ending had meant. The extended cut, which had Michael Biehn in it, which was cool. It was cool to see him, but I completely understand why it was excised. It didn't need to be there, and it removed some of her desperation, because even though it's just a dream sequence or whatever, it takes a lot of it sucked out the immediacy of that character. And then when you go to the end of it like that, I think it also takes away the message of the film. Well, no,
yeah, I know what you mean.
But the just going down the road where there's no fate but what we make, just having that stretch of road with some voiceover has way more impact than Humpty Dumpty Dee Dumpty Dumpty Die, which is what that ending was, kind of, in a way.
Yeah.
It totally didn't make sense. So
I don't think this is going to be that drastic of a change, to be honest.
Sure. But on the other hand, if you look at theatrical cut of Aliens versus the extended, give me the extended every single day. Every single day. If for no other reason, and this is a weird thing to call out, but the whole turret thing, because it builds so much tension in a portion of the film
without showing them
of it,
without really showing them. It's
right.
It really is amazing editing.
It gives that much more dread, and in that moment when Hicks grabs the rifle to go and they stop him, like, wait, they stopped. Like, they're not gonna. Next time they'll walk right up and knock. And it's just like,
but they don't know that. It's just, I love that. It really is good.
And it was, even if that's all they added, which they added a lot more characterization in the beginning of the film too. So you get to know these Marines better. So, in the sense that the Aliens is an action slasher film against the sci-fi backstory, because the extended cut sets it up almost like a Friday the 13th in a way, which is great. To me, the theatrical version is dumb. I don't, and I will never watch it again. There's no reason for it. None. The extended cut is where it's at. So depending upon what he does, I may be on board with that. If it fleshes things out more and things not necessarily make more sense, but you get more of something that is already good.
See, that's what, I mean, the way that you said it originally, I think that's the best plan. Watch 1 and 2. And then watch the new 3 when it comes out. And then when you end up probably, maybe, hopefully, you become a fan and you buy the sets or whatever, you can watch the original theatrical version and you go, huh. Because I honestly think it's going to be like that. For me, as a huge fan of The Godfather, I think it's going to be a, huh.
Cool.
Yeah, it's like another, it's like an alternate recording of your favorite one of your favorite songs. You go, oh, that's a different mix. Well, I mean, it's fine, but I'll probably just, I mean, either one really of an okay song. You know what I mean?
There's a Lamb of God record. It's the second one. It's called As the Palaces Burn. And
Leon's here, by the way.
Hi, Leon. And you're sexy. And when it first came out, I loved it. Top to bottom, back to front. I think it's a great record. Defined that band's sound. And come to find out years later, this documentary pops up. And I'm a sucker for recording documentaries. And it has Devin Townsend in it, who is one of my favorite people in the music industry of all time, who, incidentally, part of the reason we did this at noon was so that I could be ready for at 3 o'clock Central to watch a live show of his that they've done.
Cool.
But by the way, I don't have anything to promote but that. If you're watching live and you like Devin Townsend's music of any era, I'm telling you, go to grindheadjim.com/dev, D-E-V, and check out the show. It's going off at 3 p.m. Central, which is an hour and a half from now. I think a ticket's like $25. And you get to see a really cool concept I've never heard of. They recorded a by request set of everything he's done in the last 20 plus years, well, 30 years really, of music. And he took a little bit from every piece of his thing, got some of the best musicians around, including my friend Samus, to do drums. And each individual musician recorded their parts in front of a green screen. and then Dev composited it into a live show. Like they all recorded with the same camera setups and angles to where you could have this whole stage and each different camera angles are going to catch everybody. And they did, it was like the level of technicality and just the idea is like, wow, that's a lot.
If there's no like, almost like Princess Leia, Mary Poppins, Last Jedi thing, if that's not in the show anywhere, then I don't even know why you'd want to watch it.
Knowing Dev, there's going to be some cool visual cues. It's going to be
somebody
interesting.
flying. I don't know why.
Right. No, with him though, that would be possible. Like his music videos, a lot of them are just him on a green screen against like these cool vast vistas. And there's this, and his backing band on one of these things, a bunch of animals, and his drummer is a gorilla. A realistic gorilla in a spacesuit just beating on drums like this. And it's just wildly entertaining. So it'd be cool to watch that. But anyway, so Dev was the producer for this Lamb of God record. And I said, well, it's an hour-ish, hour and a half-ish documentary about the recording of this, and I get to hear Devin talk about production. And I love the Lamb of God guys, and I know the producer and director from other documentaries they've done. And I'm like, this is, knock out of the park. And it's about that record. Then you find out that the reason they're even doing the documentary is that they did a full remix and remaster of the record and why they felt it was necessary. Turns out the recording process really got botched. It would be the video equivalent of shooting raw, and then you went to mix the record or edit the film, but the tracks you had to work with, the footage you had to work with, went from 4K down to 720, and everything was compressed. And now you've got to make a record that looked and sounded like this big, and make it something. And I'm like, I totally understand. Like, it's hugely frustrating. Like, they were never happy with the sound of the record. And then after that, I'm like, well, I got to get the remix. I gotta get this. So I did. And I don't know if it's my shitty hearing or what. I can't tell. I can't tell. I can't tell a difference at all. I have no idea what. Huh? So, but that's what's interesting to me about reimaginings and stuff. Because sometimes it's just like, okay, I get what you're doing, but I don't really understand why.
Yeah,
this was fine. Like, and when they tell you the technical reasons that they did it, it does make sense on paper. But then in practice, I don't know if it's just that I'm not playing it loud enough. Because I'd be willing to bet. And matter of fact, later tonight I'm gonna have to try this. To turn up, take the record, turn it up, listen to a couple tracks, and then go back and go, okay, it's a little clearer. That's probably all it is. It's a little clearer.
Yeah.
But the way it was sold to me made it sound like this will be it's so much nicer to hear these in this way. And I go,
yeah,
I don't get it.
It's weird. Downward Spiral, 9 Inch Nails, he put out a 5.1 version of it.
Yeah.
And I listened to that, and I was expecting, okay, this is going to be this probably isn't going to be very good. And it was insanely cool, because it was like, okay, I remember what that sounds like, but there's stuff coming from everywhere. And then there were things that, like, again, having listened to that record for however many years, a lot of years, 15 years, I think at the time, and hearing some of those things that I knew they were there, but I never really picked up on them consciously until the 5.1. That was really a lot of fun, because it was almost like a new experience. But
again,
I have had remasters like what you're talking about, where it's like
why? I'll give you a movie example of this. I grew up on the mono audio of Terminator 1. That was what was released in films or into theaters, and that's what was on TV and VHS and DVD for a long time. Then the 5.1 mix comes out. A lot of the sound design is different. And yeah, it's surrounding me, and it's a good mix, but I'm like, this isn't what I remember. Like, it's not the same. Like, there's literal differences in the sound design. Like, different Foley was done, it sounds like. Or this is the original done the way it was meant to be, but something happened to the mono where, you know what I'm saying? So it's interesting because I've told you about this, like with Lethal Weapon and Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like, I memorize movies against my will. And so when
I'm the same way, though. I am.
So it's something where, and Terminator was very much that for me. It's difficult for me to watch the film now because you can't get the mono mix anymore unless you have it on disc, and I do. But then when you're listening to it on a big 7.1 1100 watts, then you're kind of like, now it's just louder. So there's no happy medium anymore. And I guess that brings up a point of like, you can't really go back and re-experience stuff. So this whole thing with the Godfather we're talking about, it is a unique opportunity, having not seen any of it before. And I'm very, very curious. Very curious indeed.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the Godfather series, I don't know if it's in my top. It's not my top 5. It's never really been in my top 5, but it's way up there. You know what I mean? It's way up there. It's really
the way
good.
It's been described to me is that it's the Wendy's of classic 70s film, in the sense that you don't want it all the time, but when you haven't had it in a long time and you sit down and eat it, you're like, oh, that's why I like this. Okay, this is really good. But you don't go there every day, you know, but it's a staple nonetheless. If you're into fast, granted, if you don't like Wendy's, it fell apart.
Right.
But, you know, my.
I get what you're saying. I don't know how. I wouldn't know how to explain it. Oh, look,
I love throwing analogies in people's faces.
Oh, it's fun. It's fun because it almost makes you go, okay, well, now wait a minute. It's more of like. Wendy's for a second? It's more of like the Jack and the It's
Jack in the Box or Whataburger.
It's not.
You know,
I don't know. I don't think
making
of
that
movies.
analogy. He wouldn't say Whataburger because he eats it like at least he used to. You know, a couple times a week because it's really close to his place. So if I put Whataburger instead of Wendy's, I've only had Whataburger twice in my life. You know, it was good both times.
Wow.
I just don't. Well, you figure I haven't lived near Whataburger, but for the last 2.5, 3 years.
Right.
And now I'm a vegetarian again. So why am I going there for the fries? Come on.
I get it.
It's like it's I don't have a point. Let's just move on.
Is Total Recall one of your favorite films?
Yes. The original, absolutely. Love it.
Yes. And what's weird is Billy and I briefly talked about it last week, and I had just watched it again for no apparent reason, but because when I got my new computer set up, I was able to bring in my my library that I ripped from all my Blu-rays. And so I was like, holy crap, I got my library back in the living room where I can just stream it and all that kind of stuff. Ran across Total Recall, and I'm like, let's see how this looks. Pulled it up and just watched the whole thing. I love it.
Great looking movie. It is one of the most efficient action films. Not a single wasted frame.
Just, it moves, that movie. Yes.
Great film. Love it.
And
what do you got for me?
Well, they're releasing a brand new 4K collector set. It just got announced yesterday or the day before, and it's got everything. It's got Benny's fake hand. It's got an extra boob.
It comes with a boob?
No, I don't know. I don't know what it comes with, but it comes with a bunch of extra stuff. It's one of those big box set things where it's a steel book and it's got all this crap. And I figured you'd be into it, but I was going to. That's a movie that. Like I said, I just watched it again for the first time in probably I don't know how many years. Like actually, because you know how like me, I don't know about you, but sometimes I'll put a movie on.
Put them on, and then
you're not paying attention to it. Yeah.
It's like comfort food. You're just kind of there, and the sounds are familiar, and it's like having an old friend in the room with you. Absolutely.
Right. I was actually watching it for the first time in a long time, and was hashtag blown away by how by how the it's so stupid. But I was so impressed with. I was like, man, if you really think about it, this is really good storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's really forward thinking because you're constantly on edge of, wait a minute, is this real? Or, you know what I mean? It's just so cool.
There's parts where you're like, oh well, this has got to be real, and there's parts where there's no way. Like the spoilers, the scene where swallow it, and you see the sweat, and you're like, oh, of course. But then what immediately follows is like, how could they be timing it like that? You know, like when they come through the walls, and you're like, and then he immediately goes into the fantasy, but then it slowly comes back to where it makes sense. What's real, Mr. Quaid? You're a lowly construction worker. Meanwhile, back on Earth, you've been lobotomized. Now stop what you're doing and put down that gun.
So you've seen it a few times. Yeah.
Swallow it.
The thing about
if I pull this trigger, it won't matter.
One of my and Octavius is here. Octavius has been a fan of mine and my previous podcast for 15 years now.
Right.
So I don't know if he remembers this, but it was one of my favorite things that I came up with on that show. And I said, wouldn't it have been funny just in like an alternate universe kind of thing, Quaid actually shows up to the party with Richter's arms. It's like
saw him with the body. Yes. You hear Richter? Look here.
For some reason, that just cracked the visual of it just cracked me up. But yeah, man,
Michael Ironside, dude.
I know.
See you at the party.
He's got I would love to see him do. Yeah. The podcast since 1965, man. Woo! That's an old podcast.
Yup.
But yeah, man. He has a way. I would love to see him in like a romantic comedy. Or
Michael Ironside? I could see that.
Any of it, like, because I like him so much. It's kind of like oh God. I just drew a blank.
Well, I can imagine him delivering dialogue like to a friend about this woman he's fallen in love with, the same way he delivers dialogue in Top Gun. Goes, flies by the seat of his pants. You know, this total wild card. You know, like she's amazing. She keeps me off guard. I don't know what I'm gonna do, frankly. I think, and the friend is like a bombastically gay man. Oh, honey, I think you should go for it. You think so? You're not getting any younger in your hair. It's not coming back.
Right, a typical late 90s romantic comedy. Right. You have to have the token gay best friend.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I could just see that. That would be amazing.
But it's just, there's something about that guy that I just like him.
Yes.
And I like
amazing character actor. I buy him in everything that he does.
Yeah.
Scanners, Top Gun, Total Recall.
V.
Oh.
V.
Yeah.
Final Battle, yeah.
Yes. And one of the biggest selling points of the first 3 Splinter Cell games was that he was Sam Fisher. Mm-hmm. And I recently played the 4th one, which most notably does not have him in it. What's jarring about it is that the writing is still very good, and the story is very good, and the game is very good. You can almost hear Michael Ironside saying these things, but it's not that guy. The actor they got was very good. He honestly should have been doing a Michael Ironside impression, and I'd have been okay with it. They should have brought in like a Troy Baker to do a Michael Ironside or someone like that, right? Because the lines were perfect. Like, it really did make sense. Like, and they keep teasing that they're going to bring him back, and he keeps saying he'd do another one. And it's like, what you need to do is spend 5 figures or more, get the man into a booth, and record like 7 scripts now while you can,
Right.
and then just make games forever. Because unless you get someone like a Troy Baker, who he did one of the animated Batman films recently. I want to say the one that I'm thinking of is
Troy Baker
Batman.
did?
Yes, he did Batman and the Joker in the Batman versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And
Wow, I didn't know that.
He is almost Kevin Conroy and almost Mark Hamill. Does bring his own thing to it, but it's just enough to where it feels very comfortable, right? And he's got the timber to do it. Like, Troy, if you're watching, I know you're not, but you should totally do the Michael Ironside impression for.
He's totally watching. He's totally watching.
No,
Troy Baker's a huge fan of the show.
I mean, he's a big dude. He's tall, motherfucker.
That's one. I mean, look, you know, this show is, you know, gone a little bit outside of I guess the Game Chasers crew. You know, I've had some different people on. He would be somebody I would. I mean,
and
come on,
be
that'd be
good
amazing
too, because he's such an affable. That art. Did I freeze for a second?
Yeah.
He has.
and again. And that's weird. Yeah, you like completely froze. All we heard is he's an affable. Okay, so it's not. I don't think it's me. I think we're good. I think we're having problems with Jim. Oh. You like how I did these borders? A little bit of a insider thing. That's how you see. So he left the room. Give me a second. Yeah, it's gonna look weird for a second. Hold on. I wonder if you. Oh wow, that works. Okay. Okay. Well, we'll just sit here for a second until good old Jimmy. Hopefully he'll just come back into the room and then we can just do our thing. Continue our conversation. Yeah. Basically what I'm doing is I like Zoom, but I don't like the fact that I couldn't add my borders, so I kind of cheesed it a little bit. I added like a, well, you can see it's kind of like, so when we're both on screen, you know, he's on this side and I'm on this side, and I can still have my cool borders with the transparency and all that kind of stuff that I like. Oh, it's right there. I like the fact that that's all transparent. But anyway, did I lose Zoom completely? No, we're still here. Man, I kind of wanted to hear what he was going to say about that. So we'll just hang out. But let's see. What do we have? Well, we were talking about Total Recall. He got onto Troy Baker, Michael Ironside. Ah, there he is. Let's see. Jim? Oh, it still says joining. Oh, here we go. Jim! Jim! Jim? He's connecting to audio. Hello, Jim.
Hi, sorry about that.
It's okay. Let me turn off the participants so the borders work. There we go.
My bad, folks.
It's okay.
My bad.
And your video is not turned on yet.
Oh.
We just see your face.
I hear you. Yeah, hang on. I'm gonna see if I can lower the bit rate a little bit. Here we go. Now we'll go in.
There we go.
Okay, and hopefully it's good. Hopefully it's okay.
The
Hopefully
last
it's
thing we
doable.
heard was you said something about affable. And then...
Oh, yes. Troy Baker is such an affable guy, and he has just enough of that artist arrogance and kind of like pomp and circumstance. Like he's very much an artiste. He's a Renaissance man in his own right. He's a musician. He's an actor. He's a voice actor. And he has just enough of that, like basically Ed Norton if he was tolerable, you know, because Ed Norton, God, that guy's a prick. I really love what he does, but God, that guy's a prick. Whereas Troy Baker is not.
He's...
So if Ed Norton, ooh, that'd be cool. Troy Baker is Batman, Ed Norton is the Joker.
That could be interesting.
Yes. Granted, they would have to really beef up Troy because he's really. And the thing is, think about that: a 6'5" Batman.
Well, it's weird because, I mean, not to go too far back to Batman again, but that's one of the things that people were kind of irritated that, not so much that it's Robert Pattinson, the Twilight sparkly vampire, but that his body type doesn't seem to fit. And I'm like,
he's really slender, yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, I don't need my Batman to be, to look like Superman.
Right. And I think Christian Bale did a good job where it was realistic, but he has some muscles on him. Mm-hmm. And I am certain without seeing anything, that he had to put in some training to do this. You don't just walk onto the set and do what he did in that scene, beating the guy up without doing a little bit of and baba baba. It's very important to and baba baba for a film of that nature. So right, but yeah, I saw it totally as a thing. But and Troy Baker, great, whatever. But it's all fine. I want Troy Baker in everything.
Oh yeah,
including Michael Ironside, and even if that meant him doing some, because they're doing this Blu-ray, if some of the lines from Michael Ironside get messed up for Total Recall, you could bring Troy Baker in, and we'd never know. Cohagen. It'd be kind of cool. See you at the party. Like I could totally see Troy Baker do it. And I brought it right back to Total Recall. You see that?
Yeah.
Fucking podcast master right here. Okay. All right.
Now, is that something? I mean, I assume that's going to be something you'll probably try to pre-order, right?
I will probably get the disc-only version of it. I don't do the collectibles that much. I really don't. Not with film. For some stuff, maybe. And I'm also not a huge fan of things not fitting on my shelf.
Oh, I get that. It's kind of like the same thing that I did with
Blade Runner. You got the case, and then you later got the one that goes on the shelf.
Yeah, I never got the case though. I wanted to, and was like, yeah, but I don't know if I actually like the movie that much. I'll just buy the final cut thing.
Sure.
And then by the time I was like, okay, I am now in love with Blade Runner. I want everything. You couldn't find it anymore. Because it was on. Oh, did you freeze again? Crap. But yeah. I don't know why I'm looking over there. My camera's here.
I don't know either.
So you're back?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because you froze. You were just like, for a second.
I jinxed myself this morning. I was watching Samus's stream. He was drumming this morning as he does on Saturdays. And we're all real excited to watch this show. And I said, I can't wait for the show, provided my internet holds up. And now as we get closer and closer to showtime, I'm like, motherfucker.
But my reason for bringing that up, I knew that I was probably like 95% sure you were a fan of Total Recall and that you would be interested in this remaster.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on all of this? Because, Billy did a physical media video a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
Jay did.
I am... Well, the thing is, you're asking me this knowing something about me not many people in chat would know. I have bought more movies on Blu-ray this year than I have in the last previous 3 years. So many, in fact, because the rest of my Blu-rays are still in storage. I bought so many Blu-rays that I had to buy a shelf to put them on. That shelf is almost full. Okay. In fact, what came today was a collector's edition Brain Scan. Do you remember Brain Scan? Edward Furlong? That movie. With the virtual reality game, and you got Frank Langella as this menacing cop. It's really good. It's really good. Look it up. It's really good. It's on Prime. It's a 90s kind of slashery thriller. Like there's slasher elements to it, but and it messes with some ideas of early VR and how things can affect the brain, this and that. And there's a character in it that's a Freddy-esque kind of character, but it's not Freddy. He's got his own kind of tone. He's somewhere between. His character is somewhere between like a Freddy Krueger, a Pinhead in terms of the elegance, and then somewhere in the middle is a little bit of a mix of like
Kermit the Frog.
No. Sheesh, go kill Piggy. The older Gary Oldman's old Dracula, where he's just kind of playing and toying with everybody and just laughing constantly because like I've won now, right? And those three things kind of boiled into one. And it's schlock. It is such glorious schlock. But you have Frank Langella as this cop who is almost the villain of the piece. And I don't want to spoil it, just in the way that he's approaching the investigation. And he never says anything without weight. Everything is just like, can you tell me anything else? And you're just like, Jesus Christ, you know, he's like, holy fuck. And he's just really intense, as Frank Langella often is. Great film. But yes, physical media is really, really important to me for many of the reasons that Billy stated in his video, where once you have that version of that film on disc, no one can take that from you, right? Case in point, we were talking about Terminator earlier, how I have a DVD, and I believe the first Blu-ray that I have also has the mono mix on there, and it is correct. So thankfully it's there. And if they ever release the original theatrical cuts of Star Wars on Blu-ray, that's an instant buy because it deserves to be preserved. I have it. I had the DVDs at one point, and I ripped them. And I think I lost the DVDs in a move somewhere. But I have a rip of them still, thank goodness. I bought them legally, but I still have a copy I can watch when I want to. And I occasionally watch them. But the idea being that for preservation, and also like we recently here in Texas had all those bad storms. And then in Iowa, where I used to live, like right where I used to live, they had horrible storms. People have been without power for weeks. And some people got power back, and now they're without internet still. And one of my friends is like, I'm watching broadcast TV, and I remember why I never watch it, because it sucks. It's a horrible experience. And then they're telling me what movies they're watching, and like, this is all crap. And I said, between my hard drives that I have of backed up stuff, the Blu-rays that I have here, I have entertainment, and the games, I have entertainment for as long as I have electrical power. That alone is a big portion of why I buy it. And I like having it in my hand. I like the artwork. I like the ritual of taking it off the shelf, deciding what to watch, putting it in, and enjoying it. It's also the best way to get special features like what we're talking about with this re-release. Shout Factory is a place I go every week just to check and make sure I haven't missed something. There's something that they're selling that normally wouldn't appeal to me, but they did this thing. The thing that they do, they have all of William Shatner's Star Trek documentaries in a box set, which is like, I can stream those. But they're like, oh, here's a bonus disc with a documentary about the making of all of those. And bonus stuff you never got to see. And I'm like... So I'm basically going to spend $75 on that bonus disc, and I'll do it, when the time comes. I got 13 Ghosts Collector's Edition from them earlier this year. It came with a poster. Didn't really want the poster, but the poster's great, actually, so it's good. And it's a good movie. I needed to replace my copy of it anyway because I had a flood in the office that I was working in Houston, and my copy of 13 Ghosts just happened to be on the floor. And it was one of those cardboard cases, so the whole case is ruined. The disc is fine, but it's like it's a DVD, and it's when DVDs were still relatively new and the compression was really bad. So getting this on Blu-ray with not a whole lot of extra features, but everything from the DVD intact, but in HD, it's totally worth it for me. So because another factor for it, like it's an investment that I put on my shelf. So like, what if I'm at a point, and I have been, as many of you know, where you can't afford a Netflix or a Hulu or a Disney Plus or Prime for that month or whatever, and you want that entertainment, I still have it. If my subscription lapses, I don't lose this, and it's also, there's that collector in me too that says, look at what I have. How many times have you said to someone, you should see this movie, and they're like, well, it's not streaming anywhere, there's no licenses, and that's the end of the conversation. You know what I mean? Like, it happens a lot these days. People are just like, well, if I can't stream it, too bad. If I can't get it for free, too bad. So it's
too much of the internet right now. But anyway, go ahead.
Right. So it's to get away from that. So when I have those conversations with somebody that I know is relatively local, because I don't lend anything out. I learned my lesson on that. But I'll say, come on over. We'll make popcorn or whatever. I don't eat popcorn, but and we all know about you and popcorn. Right?
Devil corn.
So we'll have a beer. Oh wait, no. Just sit down. We'll watch the movie.
We'll have a vape and some water if Rob's coming. Yeah, that's pretty much.
We'll breathe and watch the film, because I know everyone does that.
I'm so boring.
No, it's fine. It's fine. But you have that opportunity, whereas you don't with other media. Like right now, with what's been happening with my internet, that can ruin a film for me very quickly, where it really takes me out of it and I get really upset. Whereas with a disc, I can do everything. Yes. Oh, this disc is actually affixed to the wall. So if I actually did that, it would be a Herculean feat. It would be fun, but I'm not going to do that because, it costs me too much money. So I'm totally on board with the Total Recall re-release, as long as the transfer is good. And I'm sure Billy talked to you about that, where too many of these 4K releases are upscaled 2K transfers, and while they look good, in some ways, if it's not done just right, it can actually degrade the experience to where you see more pixels rather than less, to where traditional compression will work better. Because instead of... Because I don't know all the technology extremely well, but you would think that if you're putting a 2K restore on a 4K disc, it should be a lossless 2K presentation. That's what should happen. You have the space to do this. But for whatever reason, some of these releases, whether it's absent-mindedness, a lack of understanding of the technology, or whatever, the compression happens. And now you're stuck with something that is half the resolution of what the 4K display is supposed to be doing. You've compressed it, and now it's being upscaled, and it gets that weird, stretchy thing. Kind of like some of the early Blu-rays, like 13 Ghosts, where they had to compress it so much because they had so much on the disc, and you can see the seams and stuff. So
color banding and stuff like that?
Yes. So as long as you are giving me something more than what I already have, because I have it on Blu-ray already. I have it digitally as well, Total Recall. And the versions that I have a ton of special features on them. It's great. If you give me a couple more special features worth watching, and the transfer is good, I'm in. Like Flynn. But just like one of other Paul Verhoeven's films, RoboCop, that has been screwed on Blu-ray releases since the very first one. The first one was perfect. It was the cheap $8 one you could get at a Walmart, which is where I actually bought mine. And it just happened to be, by accident, the extended cut version, the unrated cut version. And when I realized this, I was one of the few people in the country that actually bought it. And I'm like, look at this. And the transfer is perfect. It's one I used to sell people on Blu-ray. I go, look at this. Look at how good RoboCop looks right now. Okay? And people were like, holy crap. I'm like, I know. And like, go out and buy it. It's down the street right now. Buy it. And don't tell anybody because it's Walmart. They should have censored this, but they didn't. But since then, RoboCop has been mired in its physical releases, with the exception of 2 and 3 being done through Shout Factory. I don't know why they haven't been able to secure the rights to have the first one done, because if there's anyone who can handle a good I've never had a Shout Factory upgrade that wasn't really good. They don't put something out unless they can make it really well for you, because they're fans first. And for whatever reason, the first RoboCop has its problems. And given this Paul Verhoeven, he's got a certain type of film stock and types of cameras that he likes. So I would imagine that Total Recall was shot in a similar way to RoboCop. It looks similar, although RoboCop is a grainier film than Total Recall was. Or RoboCop's grainier than Total Recall. So and because it's a bright film, it could really benefit with the 4K. I just hope that it does, if that makes sense. Because the film itself, you don't have to change anything about it. It's fine. It's good. And even if you just take what's come before it, as long as you make a good transfer, I am in like Flynn. So short answer, are you into it? Yes.
Well, okay. So I have a couple of things that I wanted to just touch on. Michael Ironside, he reminds me of Barry Corbin in that he's one of those actors that you may not know his name, but as soon as you see him in the movie, you're like, okay, we don't have to worry about this part of the movie. You know what I mean?
Well, just like his toady in the film. I don't even remember that actor's name. I've only seen him in 2 or 3 things. I knew him from the Flash TV series in 1990 because he played Captain Cold in that.
I'm sure she hated every minute of it.
Yeah, I'm sure she hated every minute of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
There! That guy. But, it doesn't have a lot of lines. Are you crazy? The dome will crack. He doesn't have a lot to do, but it's a cool character, and it is a good foil to, Michael Ironside. Just like, I'll kill you.
Now, see, Barry Corbin has had an interesting later career, because he was in, he played Kira Sedgwick's dad in The Closer, that show, The Closer, which I'm not a fan of that show, but that's something that April used to watch. And every time Barry Corbin would come up on screen, I'd be like, hey, cool. I love Barry Corbin because it's
this guy.
Ever since War Games, I've loved that guy. I'd piss on a spark plug if I thought it'd do any good. All of it. He's got some great lines in that movie. Anyway.
No, he's really good. And for a long time, that was my vision of what a general in the military was.
Yes. He had to be from the South.
That's right. And then you find out that's not the case at all. Generals typically are very well educated, extremely intelligent individuals that have gotten their. So you go back and watch that, and then you get the fun of that character for sure. Can't you just pull the plug on this son of a bitch? Like, is there an off switch or something? And that movie needs a 4K. That movie is beautiful.
Yeah.
There isn't a lot of like action, but the way it is shot, it is beautiful for the subject matter of what it is. One of the and basically it's an ensemble cast of great character actors, top to bottom. Even though Matthew Broderick was the lead, he was then and remains one of the best character actors we've ever been blessed with in this country. Amazing. He's been a lead in a lot of movies, but he's a good character actor to where even as a lead, he blends into the scenery. Not a lot of actors can say that. And War Games was like the first time I was like, damn, he was really good. And that movie, I just keep coming back to. I got that on DVD for the first time, and I was like, oh, so good.
See, I find that it's weird. A movie like that, I am completely fine with having my DVD copy of it.
Or even a regular Blu-ray.
Yeah,
too.
I don't need.
Because it doesn't need to be super crazy. It doesn't need to be super crazy. But the reason I say 4K is less about the how good it will look, but give me all the stuff, color depth, because there's a lot of contrast in that film. There's a lot of great lighting in that film. Like, I would love to be able to see Falcon's living room in 4K, so I can like look at all the little details that the set designers put in, like all the little things. That's the kind of stuff. Like, half the time that I talk to you, I'm always looking on the shelf for something I haven't seen before.
Oh, up here?
You know what I mean? Yeah, always. You know, and it's the same thing with films. Like, every so often, like, what is it back there? You know, so that you benefit there, but also when these get done, you tend to get a lot of cool. You know, like, I would love to hear Matthew Broderick today talk about war games. The few interviews I've seen him do, like when he did Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee with Jerry Seinfeld, I saw a side of him I'd never seen before. And
sorry, just how bright my face is right now, because there's a cloud right over my house. Oh, you're frozen again. Turn it. Damn, all the freezes. I think you're back.
Am I?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Oh.
I don't know how this is happening.
Damn hamsters. Keep them running.
Very frustrating. Very frustrating. But am I here? Can you see me? Because I can still see you and hear you.
Yep.
Okay. Folks at home, before or after the fact, I don't know if you're going to edit this out or not, but for those watching, I'm basically having to switch between 3 disparate networks to keep this going. You know, 2 different networks that I can access from my phone as a hotspot, the Wi-Fi here where I'm staying, and back and forth in combinations thereof. And I'm very, very angry about it. But we'll get through it. We'll get through it. We will.
I was just...
You didn't do it?
Well, no. But it's just, for me, it's one of those things, if we can talk about the physical media side of it, it's one of those things that I find it incredibly frustrating that I get it. Everything's moving that way. Everything's moving toward the digital, the streaming, all of that stuff. If you look at I've brought up the sales numbers a couple of times on the show, and they don't look good. You know, it's like 20% down year over year.
The only thing keeping it going right now is the fact that 4K still cannot be reliably streamed to every home with internet because the internet speeds aren't there, as this is illustrating, not on purpose. So, and plus we've got one more generation with disk drives of video consoles coming up, which means that you've got at least one more generation of the discs being relevant in the marketplace, right? So until the entire world gets 4K streaming reliable internet, we're not going to lose physical media. I really feel that, because they don't want to take the hit on the sales. So we'll get them for a while, and I would argue that fewer and fewer films will get any physical releases at all. But I would also argue, at least hopefully, that the ones that do are the ones that are worth getting, right? I would hope so. I saw Bill and Ted 3 last weekend, and I paid the money for the digital, and I love it. I'm happy to have it in my collection, but I'm going to double dip when they release a Blu-ray of it, absolutely, because it was a good film, and I want it. And I know that someday I'm not going to have it digitally. Something's going to happen. And look at Voodoo. Voodoo, Ultraviolet folded into Voodoo a few months ago.
Right.
And that's fine. But what's to say that it can't happen again? To where you don't get anything. So I worry about that. I don't, and Billy harps on this a lot, and I don't mean to harp on it, but he's absolutely right. I don't want someone else having control of my library, because when you buy something digitally, you are paying for a perpetual license to use it. who haven't paid for that thing, and there's nothing to stop them from altering the content and uploading a new version, like with a Gone with the Wind or what have you, right? There's nothing to stop that. And if there's a version of a film that you want preserved, you've got to find some way of preserving it in a space that is static. And a hard drive doesn't even do that, for the simple fact that those can fail. And that's scary enough. You know, eventually even the discs will eventually fail on some level. But they'll last a lot longer than most hard drives will, you know. Certainly longer than videotapes. You know, you've got like that whole movement on archive.org where they're trying to get every videotape they can just up there, just so it's there. And what I cannot figure out for the life of me is why there aren't more of these really... You're playing with your lighting, aren't you?
Yes.
I see you moving the light go up and down.
I don't have a bounce card, which I'm looking into a solution for that, because when there's clouds over my house, it makes me look like a spotlight. So I'm trying to control this. But anyway, go ahead.
I have lost control of the sun. I will attempt to rectify this matter immediately.
So I'm just having fun with you, Rob.
Hey, it's okay. It's okay.
But it's
what we're here for.
But with the physical media, I can never, like I have an emulator on my computer. I have every Nintendo game ever made, and I can emulate it, absolutely. Yet I continue, although at a trickle, to get cartridges when I can. When I saw Billy and Jay talking about the Trog arcade, and was such, you know, and they're talking about that, and they're talking about the Nintendo game was pretty good, and it was great, and I immediately went and I found a cheap copy of Trog, and I got it. I don't even have an NES here. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to buy that unless I'm doing it right now. It was like $5. It's worth it. And it is one of those things where emulation is never going to be perfect. Digital copies will never be perfect. Streaming is a long ways away from ever being perfect. And even that has its pitfalls, as we've talked about. But if you get the original thing in a physical place that you can just put in a mechanism and just have it play the way you want it to, there's never going to be, at least at this point, a true one-to-one of that experience. A truly on-demand, let me just grab this and do it. And then this button culture, this push button culture, this give me to me now immediate gratification system,
for free,
where people seem to just, they take for granted what they have. They don't seem to care that there might be minor changes to the film that they don't notice because they're not into it. Those of us that are really heavily into film, and gaming and everything in between, we know the difference, and we're going to fight for it. And right now we're on the losing end of that battle. And I don't think it's because these companies want to kill media. They were making plenty of money doing it.
Yeah.
But as you were saying before, they're not making as much money with it. It doesn't make as much sense for them to do it. And I don't fault them for that. If there was some kind of a regulation on the books of some kind, or some agreement between the studios that if they're going to alter the version, they have to make the original version available to those who want it or had it. Like, you have to opt in to altered versions of that content. If you've paid for that license, you're paying the license for that version. It's not what the license says. The license says they have the right to revoke it at any time. At any time, you know. And I know it sounds to someone who isn't that affected by it, just goes, who cares? It's a movie. Well,
it's history.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can't do that, but they do anyway. And it is a real shame. You know, look at a movie like Bright. Came out on Netflix a couple years ago. Wasn't a huge hit. Had a huge budget. There's full of holes in the plot. but it's a fun movie. I really enjoyed it. It was just one of those. It's a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday morning movie, and it's really good for that. And it's just great. And I hope they get around to making a second one because I really want to see where that goes. Plus, I want to hear another Cannibal Corpse song touted as a love song. That would be nice. But I don't think that's ever going to see a physical release. If it has, that's news to me. And Netflix has no reason to put that stuff out. Like the Daredevil series. Bro, I would buy that in a heartbeat. Even though it just kind of stops. But it still is so good. And you're not going to have that. So all these even like The Mandalorian deserves to have a physical release. Never going to happen. Ever. Because the linchpin of the cornerstone of Disney Plus is that and some other things that they have on there.
I'm just curious. Did you know that they put out I don't know if you're into... Wow, it's still available.
What's that?
Are you into vinyl collecting?
I don't actively do it. Once in a while, I go, well, maybe. Like, there's a new Napalm Death record coming out, and I pre-ordered the CD. I was going to pre-order the shirt, but I'm like, the shirt was kind of lackluster. I was like, no, I'm not going to bother with the shirt. And then they had a pre-order had the vinyl and the CD. But the only reason I didn't get it, the cover's meh. The cover's okay. You know? So no. So for me with vinyl, I do have some. At least last I checked, I had some. Because they've been in storage in a covered yet outdoor area, I may have a bunch of melted plastic inside of a cardboard sleeve that I'll never be able to get out. But the main reason I buy vinyl is for the artwork, honestly. Yeah. My most coveted vinyl, I have a Napalm Death record called Appeal Sessions, which is their best recording, in my opinion. I have 2 versions of that. I have 2 versions of the Transformers, the movie soundtrack from '87. I have an original press, which was a promo copy, so it's kind of hard to get a hold of. It's a little beat up, but it's great. And I also have a re-release from a few years ago, about 6-7 years ago they did, which is really nice. I don't have a record player. I don't care about putting them on the record. I just like look what I have, and whatever. Right. Exactly.
I have a bunch of Nine Inch Nails vinyl and don't have a record player.
Right. I like the thing is that what I've said I'm going to do, and
I want to buy those frames. You can hang them on the wall.
Yes. So like the original goal, and I kind of stopped myself because I realized how much that was going to cost. I was going to get every Napalm Death release and just put them up on a wall. And then just, but that'd be like, what if I run out of wall and they keep putting out records? Because they're still doing it. They're like 15 records in. And I'm like, fuck. It's a lot of different records. And in some cases, the artwork's been altered. I'm like, I don't want that version. I want this on the big thing. And then I realized, and that's when I go, my brain, the way it works, I'm like, well, I can just buy a poster. So I have a lot of posters of album covers of bands, but they're all in rollers. I just won't. So it's this constant battle. But you were saying, there's a reason you're bringing this up, and I'm totally stepping on it.
It's okay. I was just going to show the people here real quick. There's a Mandalorian Season 1
the soundtrack
8 LP box set from Mondo Shop, so the artwork's going to be good, and it's $200 to pre-order, and it's still available. I didn't.
It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, but I thought that would have sold out already, but it's still there. So
yeah, but again, think about the audience that The Mandalorian has, a bunch of streaming people. Yeah, you got some hipsters and stuff and so forth that like it, so it's a weird anomaly.
I want it for no other reason to just have it.
Right.
I don't have any reason to. I don't know.
Well, like, okay, just out of frame back here, I've got a 12-inch Godzilla. It's still in the package. It's an open package, but he's just sitting there. And I've got this Stan Lee figure that's still in the box because it's a good display. There's no practical use for these things but to display them and show that, hey, I love these things. So So if you could admit that to yourself and just say, these are display pieces, these are just for me to go, look, this is so awesome. It's a conversation piece. You know, when people come over to my place, I want them to go, ooh, just like when people go to your house. There's a lot of ooh at your place, you know. And as collectors, that's part of why we do it. And it's not because it's a clout thing, although that can happen as a result with friends that are into it. We collect this physical stuff because we want to share it. And it's something that, you know, there is a version of the Destiny 1 soundtrack, the score that they had made up for it, and they completely changed the story, and as a result, the score had to change. And originally, they were going to release this in a specific format that was meant to be as one long song with movements, right? And for years, Bungie denied this existed. And Marty O'Donnell, the guy who wrote it, he left the studio midway through the original Destiny life cycle, sued them, won, and then after that, they mended fences and they put it out on vinyl and CD and streaming services and stuff. And it's one of these cool things, and it's like a time capsule, right? And it's the same thing with these hardcover strategy guides for games that evolve over time. They patch out certain things, economies change, stuff like that. So I have these hardcover strategy guides from the first 2 Destinies for their release state. So when someone comes to the game now, I can be like, this is how it used to be played. Like, what is any of this? Like, oh yeah, we had to deal with this. We have it way easy now. It's free to play now. We had to pay for this, you know, kind of thing.
We had a wooden crank.
That's right, and we liked it. But it's like anything where you can preserve, you can have a snapshot in time of this thing, and the Mandalorian soundtrack falls into that for sure, because if for no other reason, in 20 years, someone can go, oh wow, such and such, this and that, blah blah blah. I'll go to Spotify, be like, look at this. What is that? Because think about this. In 20 years, it is very possible and extremely likely won't be
Oh no. He had a point. Okay. Wait. Can you hear me, Jim? You back? Nope.
I'm gonna do this.
He said in 20 years, there won't be any ham. So many things could happen in 20 years. Jim! There we go. See? Oh, he's back. Is he back? Jim!
In 20 years, vinyl will very likely be a thing of the past.
That's true.
And there will be people, young people, that do not get, they won't understand. They'll be like, why would you ever have this? Like, the concept of physical media will be completely foreign to them at some point. I hope it doesn't happen in our lifetimes, but it could. It really could. Like the way people look at cassette tapes now, even though there's like an underground for that. For some reason, vinyls became a thing again, right? But cassette tapes are kind of whatever. But the idea of we watched it on the radio, or we listened to it on the radio, and we had to like hit record at a certain time, and like, why couldn't you? Like, they don't understand how something is not on demand, always available. Like, they don't get that. And that blows my mind, because with the technology we have, things should be better. But what we're trying to say here is that the almost unequivocally are not.
There you go. And Octavius, he said, a new game. Guess what Jim would say?
A new...
Oh, no.
I'm gonna try and savor this.
Internet.
Savor salvage.
What was that?
All right. Um,
Ah,
pal.
yeah. We catch. It's almost like somebody's turning you off and then turning you right back on. That's so weird. It's so weird that I'm guessing you guys can hear that too. That sound. Weird. Dang it. But
I hate this.
I was gonna say we could.
We could.
Oh, while you're getting that fixed, I was just showing off the artwork, the Mandalorian. I just think that's it's a cool set. I'll just say it's a cool set.
So I'm gonna leave the video off because the audio seems like it'll just have to stick. It's the closest we're gonna come up with, and
yeah, we probably need to wrap up pretty soon anyway because you've got your
I
thing.
got that show.
Yeah,
20 minutes. Yeah, I mean, maybe my internet will cooperate that way. Doubt it.
Octavius is blaming Nightbot, so
that's fair, Octavius. I appreciate that, buddy.
Yeah,
I do. And I'm still not sure why you said my face should replace Rob's, except to make fun of Rob.
He's probably just messing with me.
Yeah, I was like, if it secretly means you like me, I like you too.
That was slightly
it's
sensual.
Worse when you can't see. It's worse when you can't see my face, isn't it?
Well, just the freeze frame
face. Yeah.
I like you too. Yeah, it's just a little.
Yeah.
But guys, I guess we'll let's just go ahead and call it. I mean, we've had a nice long conversation, and we've geeked out about just about everything, just all kinds of
2 hour.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. And
yes,
again, Jim, you're always welcome here. Always,
thank you, brother.
Because I mean, I love chatting with you and just hanging out. It feels like such a. This week it's gonna be Jim. It's gonna be fun.
I got nothing to worry about. We can just talk, and I know that if I have nothing to say, Jim's just gonna fill 45 minutes with a gibberish that is entertaining but provides no value whatsoever.
No, it's plenty of value. I just enjoy hearing someone be able to verbalize their thoughts almost perfectly. That's like, I mean, not that there's not people that can do that, but it's like you have a way of being able to perfectly represent what you believe and go, and that's basically what, I don't know, I like it. It's fun.
It's something that it gets me in trouble a lot, actually,
I can see that.
in day-to-day interactions, because people tend to, they get the point and they're trying to cut me off, and I'm like, no, but there's this other thing. And like, no, there isn't. Or I'm verbalizing all of my internal monologue, and there's some stuff I probably shouldn't say that people don't need to hear, even though they might know it, but they constantly hear it and just like, oh God, I can't handle this, go away. So it's a great tool in the conversational set. In personal life, not so much. Like you can watch Jay's face start to go numb when I start talking. After about 30 seconds, he's like, "Oh shit, this motherfucker's not going to shut up."
Because he's usually the talker,
and he's also very much to the point, though. He likes to make a point. You make a counterpoint, and then he'll go on a little. Basically, each successive point, his part gets longer, and that's not to his detriment by any stretch of the imagination. He's expanding on his ideas and bouncing off of you. But if you never shut up, he can't cut in his point, which makes him frustrated. And then the next point comes in, and he's like, "What?" And so we have some fun conversations, and I try to be more conscious of it, like I'm not doing right now. And we have some good ones. We went to work on some of his machines the other day.
Yeah.
And we had some cool conversations there.
I can't wait.
And it was a good time.
I can't wait for that.
Yeah, I can't divulge what we were working on, why we were working on it, or when anything's happening, but it is going to happen. It will be fun, and it will be a good time.
A full-size transforming arcade. and we can fight
no,
mechs.
No.
And kaiju, right?
Jay's Megazord Cade.
It just transforms, and
I'd go there. Can you imagine though? Like, what if that was actually a thing, and then he's all fighting, and then a bunch of people are there on Friday night, and they're all drunk. They're like, "Where'd the arcade go?"
it's like the last Starfighter. The high scores, they have to stay and pilot the mech. You know what I mean?
Oh, jeez.
That's the way it works.
Bunch of middle-aged white guys piloting the thing, and they're drunk. Like, oh.
And some of us are vaping.
Shouldn't have had those cheese fries. I got a shit.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yes. On the next episode of the Order 42.
Well,
cheese fries.
Well, guys, I thank you for hanging out. This was a lot of fun, and Jim, thank you again.
Of course, man. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure having you on. And Wednesday, we'll be back with the news of the week, and I'm attempting to do a thing. And hopefully, if it happens, then you'll be able to see something that you hadn't seen. Is that
vague? Rob is vague.
It's like you're trying to tease something and we know nothing. But I'm excited. But stay, Wednesday. It'll be fun. Even if it doesn't work, we'll just talk about news and crap and the games and the movies and the things. It'll be fun.
Just one Wednesday. I want the two topics to be news and actual crap. Let's talk about feces for a second.
No. Trust me. My life, you don't want those stories.
No.
But guys.
The colors I've seen. The colors I've seen. Nobody knows but Robbo.
Guys, on that note,